You know that sound? When you wake up in the middle of the night because what's happening outside your window isn't just thunder, but something heavy, something deep that makes the glass vibrate and your ears ring? Right now, it's 3:17 a.m. in Tehran. And that sound is exactly what they're hearing there. Except it's not a thunderstorm. It's the beginning of what military experts are already calling the storm over the Gulf. I'm looking at the latest satellite images, and I'll be honest with you. What's been happening over the last 48 hours between Iran, Israel, and America, this is no longer just escalation. This is the moment when diplomacy officially died, and missiles woke up in its place. And if you thought this conflict was somewhere far away, just something on the news, you're wrong. Because right now I'm going to tell you how the events of the last 24 hours have hit the wallet of every single one of us, hit gas prices, and hit the question of whether we'll wake up tomorrow in the same world we went to sleep in last night. Let's go. Let's start with what happened just a few hours ago in Iraq. Around 10 p.m. local time, drones packed with explosives approached the U.S. Embassy complex in Baghdad. This is the green zone, the most heavily guarded area in the country. Air defense systems kicked in, shot down two drones, but a third got through. It landed right inside the embassy perimeter. An explosion. A fire. According to sources in the Iraqi Interior Ministry, there were no casualties, but the fact itself. Iranian proxies reached out and touched the main symbol of American presence in the Middle East. And this isn't just a coincidence. Just hours before the attack, a senior military official from the Iranian-backed group Harkat al-Nusra gave an interview to Iranian television. He said, verbatim, "The strategic stockpiles of missiles and drones within Iran and the axis of resistance remain highly abundant and sustainable." But that's not the scariest part. The scariest part is that he explained the production of this weaponry doesn't require huge factories, but happens in simple workshops, with fast, low-cost production lines. In other words, no matter how many billions Israel and the US spend on their missile defense systems, the enemy is telling us, "We don't care, we'll build this stuff in garages." Now let's look south. The United Arab Emirates. The Emirates are like a showcase of stability in the region, an oasis of tourism and money. This morning, that oasis was on fire. The WM news agency confirmed. Drones attacked an oil storage facility in the port of Fujairah. Why is this important? Because Fujairah sits on the exit of the Strait of Hormuz. It's the main alternative route for oil if the strait itself is closed. And it is, effectively, already closed. The Iranian parliament, through its speaker Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf, stated, "From today, the strait can no longer be as it was before. It no longer has the necessary security." This isn't just a threat. This is a declaration of economic war on the entire world. And there are already victims. In Abu Dhabi, a Pakistani citizen was killed by shrapnel from an intercepted ballistic missile. That's the 8th death in the UAE since the start of this war. But you know what's most telling about these last 24 hours? Not the strikes themselves, but how the world is reacting to them. In Geneva today, a session of the UN Human Rights Council took place. Sarah Hossain from the Independent Fact-Finding Mission spoke. Listen to what she said. Residential areas, oil depots, and desalination plants have been destroyed. In the first days of the war, 168 people were killed in a school in the Iranian city of Mina. Most of them were girls. That's a strike on a school that many just didn't pay attention to. Then it gets worse. Un Special Rapporteur Mayor Sato put a number out there. 3 million people have been internally displaced inside Iran. 3 million. That's more than the population of some European capitals. And these people are now living in tents, without water or electricity, because the strikes hit the energy infrastructure too. And what about Lebanon? The situation there is even worse. The Seiman reports. Israeli strikes on Beirut destroyed entire residential buildings. Entire families, with children. People who fled the bombing in the south set up tents on Beirut's waterfront, and those tents were hit too. Almost 20% of Lebanon's population, 1 in 5 people, are now not in their own homes. The humanitarian corridor that Arab countries opened has stopped working. As an official said, none of that is happening anymore. And this brings us to the most interesting part. The weapons. Yesterday, Iran announced it had used a new ballistic missile. It's called the Haj Qasim, named after General Soleimani, who was killed by the Americans. According to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, this missile struck targets in Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Beit Shemesh with high precision. Whether that's true or propaganda doesn't matter. What matters is the signal. Iran has new toys, and it's using them. Now let's talk about what's happening in the White House. President Trump spoke on Monday. He said he had asked numerous countries to send their warships to the Persian Gulf to form a fleet and escort tankers. He even threatened NATO allies, saying it would be very bad for the alliance if they refused to help. And the response? Complete silence. Britain said, "We're working on a plan, but NATO has nothing to do with this." Germany. This is not a matter for NATO. The European Union. We have no appetite to expand our mission. Japan, Australia, South Korea, silent. Not a single ship. Professor Lagedek from George Washington University explained it simply. America launched a war without consulting its allies, and now expects them to clean up the mess. It's not going to fly. Trump himself, by the way, admitted he was shocked by how the war is going. He said, "They weren't supposed to go after those countries. Nobody expected that." Meaning the White House itself didn't calculate the risks. And now the scariest part. The thing economists are talking about, but that rarely makes it into the news. The UN World Food Programme stated today, global supply chains are on the brink of a collapse not seen since COVID. Carl Skor, the deputy director, said verbatim, "Shipping costs are up 18%. We've already cut rations for the starving in Sudan. We can only feed 1 in 4 severely malnourished children in Afghanistan." And then he dropped a number that sent chills down my spine. If the conflict continues until June, an additional 45 million people will be pushed into acute hunger. 45 million. That's the population of an entire country. Why? Because through the Strait of Hormuz flows 1/5 of all the world's oil and 1/4 of all fertilizer trade. No fertilizer in Africa means no harvest. No harvest means people start dying. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's math. As for Israel, they're now expanding their operation in the north, bombing the southern suburbs of Beirut, where Hezbollah launches its rockets from. In Lebanon, there are already 850 dead and over 1 million displaced. The UN warns. Mass evacuation orders could amount to forced displacement, which is prohibited by the laws of war. Israel responds that Hezbollah has proven stronger than expected, and that requires a tough response. So where do we stand as of the end of 18th March? The initiative, which in the first days belonged to the US and Israel, has clearly shifted. The initial goals, destroying Iran's nuclear program and collapsing the regime, have failed. Yes, they killed President Raisi, they killed several generals. But the regime didn't collapse. Instead, it showed it can reach anyone. From Baghdad to Dubai. Peter Neumann, a professor from King's College London, said a phrase today that I've memorized. For several days now, Diaz has been trying to find an adequate response to the closure of the strait, which they clearly didn't expect. It seems the initiative is now with Iran. What to watch for in the coming hours? First, Kharak Island. That's Iran's main all-export terminal. In Washington, voices are already being heard saying it needs to be seized or destroyed. Trump says for now he's only hitting military targets out of decency, but if all keeps rising, decency will run out fast. Second, the Marines. Thousands of American Marines are already en route, they'll be in the region in 2 weeks. Their presence will give Diaz more options, but also more temptation to strike. Third, the Houthis in Yemen. They're quiet for now. But if they enter the war and close the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, Israel will lose its southern port of Eilat. And fourth, the price of bread. We'll all be watching not just oil, but wheat. Because 45 million hungry people isn't just a number in a report. It's a ticking time bomb under the planet. We started this broadcast with the sound of explosions over Tehran. But it's important to remember what that sound really is. It's the sound of a destroyed region. It's the sound of families in tents in the mountains of Iran. It's the sound of girls who died in their school in Mina. This is not a video game. This is not a war by proxy. This is a real war with real blood, and the whole world is now frozen, waiting to see who blinks first. And we'll be here to tell you what happens next. This has been Anchor Name. Take care of yourselves.